Welcome to What Are You Sporting About podcast, a podcast about business, employment, sports, and entertainment to help educate, support, and guide you to your next level. Here's your host, attorney Sivonnia DeBarros.
Hello, everybody. I'm back again. Sakina Ibrahim, the protector of athletes, also the founder and principal attorney of the S.L. DeBarros Law Firm, where we represent 6- and 7-figure business owners and athletes in business. I am super excited today because I have a great guest, Miss Sakina Ibrahim, who's also an author and entrepreneur, and we are going to dive into some of the things that she's been doing. But before we get into that content, I just want to give you some background about who she is, because she is a phenomenal woman. Miss Sakina knows the value that she brings to the table, and she's not afraid to write about it. Her unique style has earned her an NAACP Image Award nomination for her book, Big Words to Little Me. Sakina has spent over a decade studying and teaching dance all over the world. Her work centers on supporting girls and women in identifying, healing, and creating new love-filled narratives for their lives through the arts and wellness. Sakina's wellness company, Stretch and Pray, focuses on being emotionally, physically, and spiritually balanced. Her newest book, To Begin, A Journey of Love, is a self-discovery journey meant to inspire others to walk towards their new beginnings despite their fears. Hey, check this out, guys. Before we go any further, make sure that if you are looking for a college speaker, look no further than here, the protector of athletes. Bring me to your next college event. Let's dive into the content today, because I'm super excited to have Sakina on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. You know what? When your PR reached out to me and she provided this story about who you were, I was like, okay, this is phenomenal. And I asked her, I said, well, why would this be a good story or a good person to fit for this platform? And she started talking about resilience. And I said, okay, I can see this. Resilience is something that I talk a lot about, especially for college athletes. And I've found out and have seen articles and studies about resilience and the lack thereof, and especially the lack of resilience in the children that are coming up these days. And so before we dive into more of why you wrote your book and what you are doing to educate other people on resilience, I want to know what you are sporting about.
Well, I'm sporting about the greatness of life. I'm sporting about building a sense of knowing of the self in order to overcome your obstacles, in order to create the life that you want to create, in order to have the community and the family that you want to have. I'm sporting about confidence. I'm sporting about Black girl magic. I'm sporting about happiness and joy and being worthy of it, and sharing that good news, making sure everybody doesn't always feel good every day. But if you have a little bit of light inside of you, it's our job to share it with the next person. You never know what they're going through. And your story, your testimony could be just what somebody else needs so that they can sport too.
I love that. Come on now. Come on.
All right now.
Okay, so they can sport too. And I always tell folks when I wrote this book, What Are You Sporting About, which inspired this podcast, one thing that I recognize is that you don't have to be an athlete to sport in life. Everybody is sporting for something. And so when we talk about what we're sporting about, we're talking about what are we passionate about? What is our purpose? What have we been called to do here on this earth? And I love how you said, spread your light to the next person. Well, I want to dive in a little bit about resilience, because sometimes individuals may not think that they have any light to share, or they may not think that they can pull themselves up to achieve some of the things that they set out to do earlier on. So how have you built resilience in your own life, and how have you been utilizing that to share with the next person so that they can build their own internal resilience?
Wow, great question. I really strongly believe that resilience was something that was cultivated over my life. My mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, I'm so blessed and fortunate to have multiple generations of strong women before me. And there was, obstacles in the family, generational trauma in the family, things that really affected them deeply. And I saw them push through. And so even, now in my adulthood where I'm dealing with my own stuff, I have dealt with my own stuff. I have always been able to draw on mom and grandma and my aunties and what they have made it through. And I'm like, and I talk about it in my book. Oh, I know the cloth that I'm cut from. I know what we made it out of. So I know what's in my blood, what I can get through it. The other part is faith. We are a very, strong faith-based Christian family. I spent my whole upbringing in the church and went away for a good long while. And life, just kept beating me like, all right, which way you're gonna go here? You want to do it your way, or do you want to lean on God as a source of strength and resilience? So that's something that has also helped me to overcome different obstacles, human things we all experience: grief, heartbreak, job loss, issues with weight gain, health. All these are part of our human experience, but it is a skill to learn to overcome the things that life throw at you. And you have to constantly be seeking to build your toolbox of like, okay, how am I going to fight? I always think of it like a lot of people don't realize that they're in the ring, right? But life is like, it's a boxing match. Hey, sporting, right? It's a boxing match. And so as soon as you figure that out, like every day I got to fight for something, if it's not, it might be big, it might be small. And I have to find the joy of life within that fight. I think boxing is such a great, and I'm such a boxing fan too. It's such a great analogy because it's a fight while you're in there, but it's entertaining, it's fun, there's highs, there's lows. That's life, so.
I love it. And it's true because entrepreneurism is exactly the same way. You go from, being at your highest moment. Hey, I've done this. I've created this business, or I've written this book. And then you could go to the lowest low. Oh my gosh, how do I get this in front of people? How do I make them listen? How do I, create the impact that I want other people to experience? It's so many different things that we go through in our own lives. And there's so many different areas in our lives that keeps us, like you said, in the ring, continuously fighting. But those who may struggle with resilience don't think that there's light at the end of the tunnel. As I studied resilience, I learned that there are about, I think it's 6 or 7 types of resilience, and a few that you've already brought out: spiritual resilience. There is, oh my gosh, like your own emotional resilience. There is mental resilience, right? And when you're able to cultivate these levels of resilience, you're able to find yourself, you may find yourself on the downturn of a situation, but you know that it's possible that you're going to overcome. Like it's not even a question. It's just a matter of when, right? It's just a matter of when. If I go ahead and I work towards what I want this to look like, or the outcome that I desire this to be, it's only a matter of when this is going to happen. It's not my downfall. And so I think a lot of times people struggle with what things look like now and how it feels now, which deters them from even trying and implementing resilience so that they can actually overcome.
Yeah, there's such a fine line between like resilience, knowing you're going to get through it, being strong, and then actually being in it. Right. And sometimes, especially for strong, resilient women, we don't always take the time to feel what we need to feel. Part of the process is going through the various phases of your victory. And so you can't, like, something traumatic happens and you can't just say, oh, I'm a victor. Yes, you're victorious, but part of the lesson, part of the growth is feeling the pain. Right. So there's some good days, there's some bad days. You might have to take a day off and just grieve. I know when I was going through my heartbreak, I gave myself, I was like, I got 48 hours. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to cry. I'm going to sit in the dark. I'm going to pray. I don't even think I ate, because I felt it, I understood that part of the process was to feel it and not to, just jump right away into covering it up, shopping it away, sexing it away, doing all these various things to help avoid the pain too. So having an understanding of feeling it and then saying, okay, now it's time for me to move forward.
I love that. Balance, because you described growing up with very strong women, seeing them do and balance so many things and pull themselves up. And my upbringing is very similar. Come from a family of many, many, many strong women, strong Black women, who have just, even in turbulent times, it's like, how did you manage this? How did you navigate this? How did you continue to care for a family and make sure that everybody else was good? But one thing that I've come to recognize as well, if we don't find that balance of feeling what we feel, being present in that moment and allowing ourselves to grieve whatever the situation may be, it could sabotage the level of resilience that we have later on in life. And I say that more so from a mental health perspective, not to get too deep. For the African American community, we have been known as or seen as very resilient people. We can rise to any occasion. We can, just put on the face and go out into the world and, act like everything is okay. And that doesn't bother me, or, that's not going to stop whatever my show is going to be. But really, what are the mental health issues looming in the background if we don't really deal with it? Is that something that could really destroy the level of resilience that we think we have? And is that true coping, right? Are we just sweeping things under the rug as we go through it, or is that real resilience? What do you think?
Well, I think that in our past, our focus has been to survive, right? Because of the political circumstances, because of our history, it's just been about survival. And although things are still so far from perfect in terms of structurally what Black people have to deal with, disproportionate access, challenges in education, challenges, you wake up and you're like, what's going to happen today? Kind of always being on edge on how the Black experience is going to be affected in a white supremacist society. That's a reality that we live, that we know. And survival has been part of it. And the blessing is just having an insurmountable amount of resilience. But it comes with a price, right? So how many people do we see, just within our families who have PTSD, right? Who are suffering with undiagnosed mental illness, who scapegoat with drugs or alcohol, and you know what I mean, with just not having an understanding or tools on what to do. So they do the best that they can to survive. And the quote from 12 Years a Slave comes right to mind. I don't want to survive, right? I want to thrive. I want to live. There's a difference. And so I think that there's a shift happening, with the millennial generation, with access, with internally people deciding, hey, I want to address these issues. I want to address generational trauma. I want to learn how to take care of myself. I want to have uncomfortable conversations. Even in, my book, I shared things that when I was writing, it didn't come to my mind to have a conversation with my mom about, right? And then she called me and was like, hey, I have some questions, right? And I had to really sit in being okay with having an uncomfortable conversation and being vulnerable, because I want those wounds to be healed, not just for me, but for her as well, right? And it took years to normalize therapy in my own family, right? To say, here, this is what I'm doing. And then praying oh, please, we've been through a lot. And they're like, you're crazy. You act like, you went through all these things and I'm like, no, it's not about that. There's no oppression Olympics, right? It's about meeting yourself with where you are and having a vision for where you want to go, So the mental health has completely been dismissed in the past. I think it's been a who was supposed to teach us taking care of ourselves was okay. It just hasn't been a part of the culture. That's beginning to shift little by little. It's beginning to improve, but one person at a time.
Man, I definitely agree. So there's something you said there that made me think back on a previous guest who talks about restorative justice, and not in the sense of criminality, which is what comes up in a lot of people's minds, but in the reality of restoring families, community, culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's deep. It's deep. And when you talked about normalizing therapy, I thought of a few of her words, normalizing each other's experiences. Because sometimes, especially in a newer generation or even in our generation, we see things completely different from how our parents and our grandparents experienced them, right? And because they experience in a certain way, they may sometimes input that same ideology into us, or our upbringing, which we have to start breaking down those barriers for ourselves when we're older and wiser to recognize, okay, this isn't really good. But then we can't ostracize them either. We still have to, understand and normalize their exact experience. And I love how you talked about being able to have an open dialogue with your mom around some issues. So I want to dive into this book because you received an NAACP nomination for this work. And so tell us a little bit about what exactly is a journey in self-love and healing about. Like, what inspired you to write that? And what are some of the tough conversations that you're actually having in this book that you also hope other families have?
Okay, so the birth of this book really came with deciding that I wanted to improve myself. I wanted to improve my life. I didn't want to repeat certain, things that have happened and throughout my family line, that the women have dealt with, like domestic violence. I didn't want to not feel in control and free within my own life. So I had a breakup. And this incredible person I was with for almost 10 years. So a big part of our relationship was we were very close, so much of my identity was kind of wrapped up in the relationship. And so once the breakup happened, I had to really sit and ask, well, who are you? Who are you independently? And who do you want to be? And what are your thoughts and feelings? And where do you want to go from here? So that helped for me to dig deeper into, what's your relationship with your father? Okay, here we go. Okay. The other male figures in your life, what are the different things that you've experienced? I started asking myself questions about my experiences and what I had really learned from them, because the way you move forward is to really get the lesson, right? A lot of people are just repeating the same thing. Like, you still going through that, girl? Like, you didn't get it the first 5 times. I'm not that girl. I like to reflect and get my lessons and move forward. I don't like to suffer.
Or keep repeating the same test over and over again. We know it keeps coming back around in the loop until you get it. It's like, you're going to keep learning this lesson.
Right. It's like, no. I don't like to suffer. So I'm like, okay, what is this trying to teach me? So in To Begin, I share parts of that relationship, the beauty of it, the lessons learned in it, and also when it was time to let go, what that process was, drawing on my faith, creating a new vision for myself and for my identity. One of the stories I also share is about my uncle. My uncle was a victim of gang violence, and he was blind, mute, and paralyzed. And I was young when it happened, but the layers of that trauma overspilled once he passed away, right? It was like repeating what had happened 15 years prior all over again. You know, seeing my grandmother, seeing my mother, my aunt, my brother, seeing all of the pain come up to the surface from the initial trauma. And I was like, oh, we didn't really deal with this. You know, we didn't do the forgiveness work. We didn't do, you know, we've always been very tight. And like I said, survive. And the dynamics of families with disabilities are very different. We have our own reality, right? There's a whole, you know, different planning process that comes along with that, as well as a deep empathy and compassion, you know, for humanity and like unconditional love, right? Because like, there's a person with a disability that you have to care, that you care for and that you love, and it's without a question. So I talk about the different lessons that I learned through my Uncle Carl's life, as well as like fighting through domestic violence and how my lessons were, wow, it can happen to anybody. You know, it was like Miss Women's Empowerment, you know, Miss got it all together. And there were a lot of deep internal lessons that I had to reflect on in order to rise above the circumstances and also have deep compassion. You know, I dedicate the book to women who have survived domestic violence and the women who have not also. You know, I'm very fortunate to be able to have walked away. I know there was recently a big thing on social media with the football player, and that has sort of reignited, you know, the attention and the importance to always have awareness on domestic violence and it being absolutely unacceptable and never the victim's fault, which is oftentimes why so many women stay stuck in those situations. So those are some of the themes I explore and stories that I share in the book and the different things that I've done in order to overcome it. Prayer was such a big part. Reflection was such a big part. You know, leaning on my sisters and family members. You know, when I was healing, I left town and like went to all of my best friends' house and stayed with them for weeks. And I was like, wow, I'm so lucky. I'm so fortunate, you know, that I can cry on their shoulder and they're like taking me to the spa and, you know, like go sweat and cry, girl. I'm so fortunate to have had such a strong support system. And I want this book, you know, to inspire and motivate women and men that they don't have to be afraid to start over. So many times we stay stuck in situations that no longer serve us because we don't know what's going to happen next. But all you have to do is have the courage to begin.
I love it. Have the courage to begin. There's a lot that a whole mouthful that you stated there. But one thing that comes to mind is just, you know, we've been talking a lot about resilience, is being resilient about your own life. And, you know, you talked a lot about how you got lost in this relationship. And I don't even think you knew that you got that lost while you were in the relationship. And it makes me think about how, you know, so many times people lose themselves in certain relationships. It can be parenthood. Before we came on live, I was telling you about, you know, my kid being home today. So I hope he doesn't bust in here. But, you know, people like give up on their dreams. And sometimes I don't even think they recognize that they've given up. It's just, okay, this is what my life is now. I have to do this. I have to, you know, and you begin reconforming who you were as something that you don't really like or know that you don't like until, you know, the floodgates are open. And then you're having to do this rediscovery. I think that rediscovery actually is a tool to help you to also remain resilient in life. You have to be open to constantly think about, who am I and what is it that I really want to do and get out of this life? You know what I'm saying? You said, you know, have the courage to begin again or to start anew. And it really does take courage to be in that space, especially when you don't know what's on the other end. But that's also a mechanism of faith that's operating, right? We all don't know what is actually going to happen. But if we start to begin the process of working towards something that we hope will happen, then I do believe that, you know, God or higher power, whatever you believe in, will put you in the spaces and the places where you need to be. It's beautiful that you did have a support system, because there are so many people who don't, or who feel like there's no way I can talk to people that I know love me about certain issues that I'm going through. But then it brings me back to this superwoman mentality. It's impossible. We have to start breaking down those barriers that are keeping us stuck, debilitated, and harmed in so many ways, that's keeping us from living our best life. You cannot do everything by yourself, and sometimes your healing is dependent upon other people who you also trust to be around you. It doesn't mean that they have to, you know, be the complete orchestrator of what's going to be your new life, but just being there to listen to something you may be going through. Like you said, just taking you to the spa, you know, something to get your mind off of things that are happening around you is so paramount to overcoming, and then subsequently achieving what it is that you want to achieve. And also know that your life isn't going to look like the next person.
No.
You know? Yeah.
No, we can't compare ourselves to other people. You said something so important. We have to be okay not being okay. And it's real hard. It's hard, y'all.
Tell me about it.
You have to be okay being vulnerable, to say, like I said actually to my best friend yesterday, like, yo, I'm not good today. And I'm just gonna put that there. I want to say that I don't got it.
Yeah.
And you know, it opened this space, and her response was like, oh my gosh, that's my worst fear, to feel that. And even her response is like, how really, oh, that's our worst fear, to be like, I don't have a hold on this. It's okay not to have a hold. If you first of all, you do, right? You do. Whatever it is, you're going to get through it. But there's so much beauty and strength and vulnerability, and allowing yourself to be supported, and allowing yourself to be loved, to be helped, and allowing other people the space in your life to show up and show why they're in your life. Otherwise, it's like, I don't like, if we can't support each other, why do I need you here? You know, like, what relationships are beneficial and reciprocal, you know, and it's something we all have to learn. Like, how do you serve yourself and serve others? But that's part of our human experience, you know, being of service to each other. And what I believe is part of what will, you know, help to heal some of the pain that this world experiences, just having compassion to like pause and be of assistance and service. And we have to do that for and within ourselves, and then also allow our community to do that for us too.
Oof. Yes. Words. Yes. Yes. Because I'm telling you, man, if you can't look, especially if you are considered the strong friend, or the friend that always seems to have it together, and you really articulate that, look, today ain't a good day. I don't even know if it's going to be a good week or a good month, but you don't have anyone to support you, then you really need to take a deep look into the people that you put around you, right? Because at the end of the day, are they truly conducive to the change that you want to see in your own life? And are they going to support you on an upward momentum, you know, to where your greatest achievements are going to be? Some people are literally just on the ride for the heck of it, to see what they can get out of it. But it's in moments of weakness and moments of pain, moments of fear, that you really, I feel like you really, really see what people are made of and what their intentions really are, you know? And sometimes it takes looking at yourself too. What was it about me that I put out into the world that drew these types of people into my life, right? And how have I been operating in a way that has allowed them to completely consume everything that I have, that is about me, that has kept me from getting my healing? And now I'm feeling that, and I'm left alone to deal with the ramifications of that, you know? So with that being said, I want to know, how can people utilize their resilience muscle in everyday life so that they can overcome things that may seem impossible to some people. Or you can talk about what you've been able to do. I know we talked a lot about, having that support system and faith. Is there anything else that you would suggest people utilize in their own personal lives?
Yes, so good. You're on fire, girl. I like to think about healing and resilience as like a triad. And this is part of like what I share with my clients. So when it comes to resilience, you have to think about your mind, right? What is it that your mind needs? Is it to pour everything out, to do a brain dump, to get it on paper, to talk to somebody, to get it out of your head? What's truth? What's a lie? What are you being delusional about? What are you being angry? Because our perspective sort of informs our thoughts and decisions, right? Just how we feel about things. Also, your body, right? Our pain and emotions, they show up in our body. They show up in like that shoulder pain, that back pain. The illness you might be dealing with is stress, is trauma, there's also an emotional connection to those things. So how can you be resilient in your body? By having a wellness practice, right? By working out, by running it out, by stretching, by doing yoga, by boxing. There's boxing again for me, to get the anger out, by swimming, doing different things to get the energy flowing and moving, in your body as well. And then, of course, your spirit, right? How can you be resilient in your spirit? Faith is so important, regardless of what your religious, path or walk might be. I am Christian, so having prayer and turning to the word and speaking with my pastors and, other believers to encourage my spirit, right? Like matters of the heart are no joke. No joke. So that's also taking the time to, like we said earlier, acknowledge how you're feeling, So thinking about resilience and moving forward in those three ways. And resilience is also action-based, right? You can't think your way into into your next, thinking is part of it, but it's about being strategic, being action-based, having trust, and most importantly, trusting yourself, encouraging yourself. Because sometimes there is nobody else around. There's been many times in my walk, there was nobody else around. That's why I had to build a relationship with God. Because it was like, it's looking real light out here.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Oh my gosh. No, that's good. That is so good. I am reminded of, and I cannot think of this guy's name, but he's a pastor, very young guy. Well, I won't say very young, but he is young. And oh my gosh, he had this series where he was talking about, I can't remember what the subject was, but he was basically talking about how people struggle with cognitive dissonance. Your heart and your mind are so disconnected, and therefore you will never be on the same page. People will say things with their mouth, but up here you believe one thing and your heart is in a totally different space. And so to even be able to exercise a level of resilience, like you said, it's an action, the same way faith is. You do things hoping that it works out, but you don't know if it will. It's all an action of faith. Does your mind really believe that it will work for you? Does your heart believe that it will? And then what is your mouth saying? What are you saying with your mouth? Because you also have the power in your tongue to also, build a level of faith to help you move to the next phase of your life. And
Yes.
if all of those things start working together, then I do feel like people are in taking your triad of resilience, for example, your mind will be in the right place, your body, your heart will be in the right place, and then your mouth will speak the things of faith and spirituality that will help you to move along the trajectory that you want to see yourself in.
Yes, you said it. There's power in the tongue. And none of these things are overnight. It's a process. First, you have to acknowledge that you want the change. You have to have a vision of where you want to go. And you have to make the steps to let go of some things. right? You might not get that apology. For me, I had to make a lot of, I think about 4 phone calls this year. People they didn't even know I was upset. And I was like, how did you not know I was mad at you? And that's why I haven't talked to you. They're like, I didn't know. So that was me stuff. That was my work, to say how I feel and okay, how do I want to move forward? How do we rebuild this relationship or decide if it's worth rebuilding or not? So you have to be willing to let things go in alignment. That's why that triad's so important, right? Right? What you see, what you hear, what you put into yourself, they all come together. And I just want for people not to be unconscious, thinking that life is just happening, but being very aware that you play an active role in creating your life. That doesn't mean things are going to be perfect. That doesn't mean money is going to fix it all. It doesn't. What it means is, that whatever comes your way, you can handle it.
Man, that's deep. Man, that's so good. Well, Sakina, oh my gosh. Like, I could legit talk to you for a good while.
Aww.
I'm not going to be disrespectful to your time or your day. So, look, guys, you definitely have to get her book. You can go to her website. I put it in the chat. I'm going to also put it on the other social platforms. But if you go to sakinaibrahim.com, that's SAKINAIBRAHIM.com. You can click on books, which is on her, what do you call this thing? The top bar, I can't even think what it is. And look for it to begin a journey in self-love and healing. If you are the type of individual who has been finding yourself in spaces where you're struggling, you don't know why, or you don't have the support system that you think you need, maybe this is a good place to start here to figure out how you can pull yourself up and get on this journey to healing so you can be your best self and do your best work. Love the book cover. She's holding it right there for you guys. This book is also like on all different types of platforms. I'm sure it's on Amazon. I know I saw it on Google before. Yeah, make sure you get this. She has some other works that she's also authored. And so when you go to her website, you can check those things out as well. Sakina, where can people follow you, engage with you, so that they can, be along this journey and grab content that can help them just daily if they need a small spiritual feeding to help them keep moving forward in their lives?
Yes, I can be followed at Sakina_world on all platforms. SAKINA_world. That's on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you want your nuggets of wisdom and encouragement, you want to make sure you go to SakinaIbrahim.com and sign up to be on my mailing list. Please subscribe there. We have a lot of great things happening and flowing for the new year coming, so you don't want to miss it. I'm definitely a real person. Like, I really engage. I love Instagram. I'm always talking junk on there. So if you have a question, if you need some support, or you just want to say hello, please shoot a DM, shoot a message. I love connecting with people.
Awesome, guys. Definitely make sure you check out those resources that are available. Get her book, like I said, so that you can be on your journey to self-healing and love. Sakina, thank you so much again for coming on and dropping some major nuggets of wisdom. This has been amazing. Super amazing.
Yes. I truly enjoyed talking to you. You get it.
Yes. Oh, I definitely get it. Resilience is an active part of my daily life.
Yes.
Yes, I get it. Oh my gosh, man. So check this out, guys. Whatever your favorite podcasting platform is, I want you to go and subscribe right now to What Are You Sporting About, so you never miss an episode. If you are a college student, make sure you get our very newest best-selling book, Athletes Making Moves. And don't forget about What Are You Sporting About, the book, best-selling book. You can get that at prosportlawyer.com. Until next time, guys, I will check you later to encourage you, educate you, and inspire you to your very next level. Ciao.
Thanks for joining us this week on What Are You Sporting About podcast. Make sure to visit our website, prosportlawyer.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite platform is, so you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or iHeartRadio. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like the show, you might want to check out our book, What Are You Sporting About? Attorney Sivonnia DeBarros is available for private consulting at sldebarros.com. And remember, we're here to educate, support, and guide you in your journey to success, because we're all sporting about something.